Hello, welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast, this very special Women Who Make an Impact series. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and today is going to be an amazing day because we are welcoming the one and only Dr. Laura Brenner. Yes, the author of the blog post that went viral, 10 Reasons Why Your Dentist Hates You Too, and the CEO of Lola B's Career Coaching and the Dental Side Gigs. She's amazing. She is such a good friend of mine. I could have her on the show every week. Our conversations are always fire. And in today's episode, what we're really focusing on is her journey in terms of who she needed to become to make an impact. We really talk a lot about the need for refueling and feeding your own soul in order to make great impact. Why your environment matters, very critical component in her journey. And what does true impact necessitate in terms of a change in you? What does that mean in terms of what needs to change in order to make true impact? She also talks about taking responsibility for yourself as a leader of change and impact. And at the end of the episode, you're going to hear the next groundbreaking steps in Laura's professional journey and her next level of impact. You're in for a wild ride. Enjoy this phenomenal conversation with my good friend, Laura. Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and welcome back to the Women Who Make an Impact series in the Business of Happiness. I am so excited because today I get to introduce you to a very dear friend of mine who is making some incredible waves in our industry. After dreaming of being a dentist her whole life, Dr. Laura Brenner learned that dentistry wasn't a match for her. She actually practiced for 10 years before leaving clinical dentistry, and she became a blogger, a speaker, and a certified professional coach, which she is, by the way, excellent at. And her post, she had this incredible post that went viral that was titled 10 Reasons Your Dentist Probably Hates You Too. And yes, you can still find that post. After that went viral, she began connecting with dental professionals around the world who wanted more from their careers. And in doing so, she actually created Lola B's Career Coaching and guides dental professionals in designing their careers on their terms so that they can create joyful, balanced lives. And joining me today is the one and only Laura Brenner. Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. I'm so honored to be with you.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. Guys, I met Laura. I don't even know how long ago we met.
I remember meeting or seeing you speak at Vanessa Emerson's event. It was
Yes,
virtual, so it had to have been 2021 or
something like that.
just
Yes.
it was her event that she took it virtual and you spoke, and I was so wowed by you.
Oh my gosh. And I've been wowed by you ever since. And just, I have to say, you were one of the first people I thought of when I thought of this series because I've just admired the change and the growth that you have gone through year after year after year and what it's taken for you to really make some massive impact in our industry. And I'd love for you to share with the audience, what is the impact you're making right now?
Oh, see, now I have a big dream. My impact is a big dream, and it's to really revolutionize the dialogue that we're having in dentistry, to revolutionize the idea, and it fits right in with what you do, that there is only one way to be successful in dentistry, right? You talk a lot, Taryn, about defining success for you individually, right? And that's what I want us to do. I want us to redefine what success looks like in dentistry and recognize that it's not a one size fits all approach for any of us. So it's really about accepting that we all have different interests, different passions. Some of us might not even know what our passion is yet, right? And just recognizing that some of us can love it, some of us can not love it, but that we can be who we are and that that's okay. And how can we design our whole lives to really like fit our careers in dentistry specifically, but it could apply to any career, right? How can we fit our careers into our lives instead of fitting this square peg into a round hole of a life that really doesn't make you, as you recently said, feel good, right? And I remember you said when you feel good, you can do good. And so that's what I'm referring to. But
Mm.
it's really like, let's revolutionize it and just do what you want. Stop doing what the whole community of dentistry has defined you should do for decades.
Yeah, and that's such a paradigm shift in our industry because there is this very pre-prescribed way of doing things and just a few options in between. And it leaves you feeling not good enough if one of those ways doesn't work for you.
100%. What
Mm,
not good enough? What's wrong with me?
mm,
I'm a failure.
mhm.
And none of that's true.
Right. That's the crazy thing is we're all ascribing to this thing that's just not true. That's making us feel a certain way about ourselves. That's a lie. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I love it. And I'm so grateful to you for bringing this work because I think so many people need it, not just dentists who are just starting out in their career, but some of us only wake up halfway through. I mean, you had an experience early on in your career when you had this kind of aha moment of, wait a minute, what am I doing here? But some people get 20 years into their career and they wake up and they think, what is going on? This doesn't even feel like my life. How did I end up here? And some of us only realize it at retirement when we step out of the dental world and then look back and think, gosh, what was all of that for? Or where did I fall out of alignment with myself? So, could you give us just a little bit of your story, just for those who hadn't heard your story before?
Yes. So I practiced dentistry for 10 years. And in year 3, I became so burnt out that I thought I hated it, and I did hate it. I hated showing up to work every day. I dreaded it. I lost sleep at night. I didn't know that it was also burnout because I thought I was too young to be burnt out, and this was in 2004. No one was really they weren't studying burnout the way they are now, right? Just no one taught we knew it was a thing and that was about it. And I was just so miserable by my 3rd year. And at that point, things weren't really getting easier for me in dentistry. And I thought that they would. And I think that was what made me feel so much worse about it. Was
Mm,
like I gave up hope that thing,
mm,
at the beginning, I knew dentistry was going to be hard. It was just getting through the newness of it and working through that, and then it will be great. It'll be this dream career that I thought it was going to be. And then that never happened. And then I lost hope and spent the next 7 years of my 10-year career riding the roller coaster of wanting to do something different, but not believing in myself or the possibilities, and going from tolerating to never loving, never
mm.
happy, but going from tolerating to total depression about it, but really good at covering it up, really good at being happy and like an upbeat person. So I didn't even know it till I let go of dentistry. But finally, in my 10th year, I had to let it go because of desperation. Desperation drove me. I was so unhappy that I just got to a point in life where I had to start motivating and inspiring myself by saying, I don't need to suffer my way through this life for it to be valuable." And so I left and did some side gigs, and those led me to now, which is I basically help others do the same thing that I needed help with when there was no one around years ago.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful that now this has become the passion that fuels this new beautiful career of yours in terms of redefining that for people and redefining what success can look like for you. So, when you decided, or maybe it wasn't a single day that you decided, it evolved this decision to make this massive impact, to be that person on stage, to be that person in podcasts, to run the retreats, to hold space for a broader section of the population. What did it mean to you to make an impact? And what does it mean to you today?
I've always known logically that in dentistry, we make an impact.
Mm,
We really do, right? But when you know it logically and you don't feel it in your soul and in your heart, it almost doesn't even matter. And so for me, the impact that I make is to help other people, but it also has to help me too.
Mm.
I can't just give and sacrifice myself. And that's what so many of us do in dentistry. So that's part of impact. Like when I think about impact now, I have to win too. I'm creating a win for you, but I have to win too. And so for me, I think the biggest form of impact that I can give people is hope, inspiration, and permission to do what you want in your life. I don't care what you do. If it's in dentistry, awesome. If it's out of dentistry, awesome. But do what you want. You know, that people often reference that Bronnie Ware, the top 5 reasons. I think you referenced it recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I love Bronnie Ware's
Like,
work, The Top 5
right?
Regrets of the Dying. Yeah.
Right? The number one regret of people who were dying was, I wish I lived a life true to myself, not what others wanted of me. Right. And I may have said that a little bit
No,
off.
it's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a foundational thing. But don't you find though, Laura, that many of us don't know what that means? I wish I'd live a life true to myself. Don't you find that so many people don't know what that is, true to myself?
That is, I'll use the word again, very true, right? A lot of people don't know what that means. And I think it's partly because we are communal beings, right? And we want to be accepted by others. And that's just part of our nature. And so sometimes I think we get so influenced by everyone else, especially the caretakers. Like we, as healthcare professionals, are caretakers. And so I think we get in a patterning of putting everyone else first, wanting to make others happy. After a while, we don't even know what we think, what we like, who we are, because we're so busy almost. I'm going to use the word mimicking. I don't know if that's even the right word, but just sort of following and fitting in with everyone else that I'll tell you what, Taryn, this is super random, but it's still a lot of work for me to remind myself to listen to myself.
Yeah.
And for a lot of years, I didn't ever do it. And I would have recurring dreams. And I mean, it was like the same theme over and over and over. And I started noticing that. And I was like, this is weird. I'm going to look them up. And I looked up all the symbolism in my dreams. And it was always what was going on in my life. And when I started really recognizing these patterns that I was doing and what I was feeling, then the dreams evolved. And then they
Wow.
stopped altogether. Like our bodies want us to know who we are and what we think and what we
Mm,
feel.
mm,
And my body was screaming for my attention because I was ignoring it. And I think it's so easy for all of us to get into autopilot. We've got
mm.
our to-do list all day long, and some of it's fun, but so much of it is just we're unconscious.
Yeah, so cool. And especially when it comes to making a massive impact. So I think this is another place where we can get it a little twisted because we think, okay, this is something I'm feeling passionate about. Usually, when you want to make impact, it's around something you feel passionate about. And then we think, I'm going to go all in and just pour myself into this passion project. And I want it to make massive impact. I want to impact many people. But I love what you said about the new realization that you have that in order to make impact, it needs to also feed and fuel us along the way. So, what happened in your journey towards this impact making decision that gave you the realization of how important it is for that self fueling?
That's a great question. So I don't think I mean, I don't, for a long time, I didn't recognize it. For a long time, I thought in wanting that, I thought I was being selfish. I thought I
Ooh.
wasn't genuinely caring about other people the way everyone else was. And so I turned it on me. And instead of saying, I'm doing things that aren't aligned, I turned it on myself and I was like, there's something wrong with me. I'm not aligned or I'm not okay. Right. And so I think along the way, I did have to leave dentistry. Oh gosh, I might go on a tangent here. So bring me back if I, but people often talk about that thing of like, no matter where you are, well, no matter where you go, there you are. Right.
Love that. Mhm.
And I love it too. And I also think sometimes in life, there are external circumstances and our
Mhm.
environment does matter.
Mhm.
And people used to always say to me, well, I'm just afraid that if I change, no matter what kind of change I make, if I change, then it's not going to be better and I'm still going to be me. And I always say, at least when it comes to leaving dentistry, that you have to change so much from the inside out that you won't be the same person that you're going to become if you have to do this, right? And so to circle that back, it's like, yes, there's a part of us that we need to take responsibility, right? And we can also look at our environment and are we in an unhealthy, unsafe environment that's not helping us grow? That was dentistry for me. So I actually had to remove myself from that situation in order to see that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not selfish. And in that process, I had to change. I had to take responsibility for myself, for my feelings, for my belief systems, all those things. I had to take responsibility and then I could change the way I saw the world. I had to do that, but it wasn't until I actually freed myself up from this external machine of, this environment that was in my world keeping me down,
Yeah.
but I was able to then say, all right, you can impact and this isn't you. And, I was able to go from actually pre dentistry really liking people, thinking I liked people, during dentistry, thinking I hated people, hated people. I was like, I'd rather work with lab rats, and then to afterwards going, oh, wait, that wasn't me. Right? I really do care about people. I just need to take responsibility for my challenges, my boundary challenges, and protect myself along the way and protect what I expect of myself. It's like I need to protect myself from my brain, not
Yeah.
necessarily other people.
Yeah, that's the responsibility part, right? Taking responsibility for your own brain and for your feelings. Yeah. So, who did you have to become in that evolution? What
Mm.
who did you have to become to be the woman who could make positive impact?
I had to become someone who was willing to look inside. You know what? I've always been very introspective. When I was 15, my mother got me the Personal Power, the Tony Robbins Personal Power cassette tape.
Wow, cool.
So I remember being in high school and listening to Tony Robbins.
Wow.
And so I've always had that, but I just had to continue building that. I think when we become open to believing that we can change, believing that we can control our reactions to things, the way we see the world, our thoughts, I had to do that stuff. And
Yeah.
I had to really take responsibility for, or give myself that power to know that I could do this. So I think it was really just being open-minded. Maybe there's another way. Even if I'm following a process and I don't really know yet how it's going to turn out, it's having that faith or that hope or that belief. And then saying, you know what, I'm just going to do something anyway, right? Like doing some sort of action, no matter how small, because in life, we never know our answers until we are in action about it. We can plan and plan all we want, but we get stuck in our thoughts, we get stuck in our heads. Again, we're not always seeing the truth. And so sometimes getting it into action is what gives us our answers. So for me, it was, my gosh, Taryn, this is such a long, convoluted, I'm
No, it's
like
perfect.
journaling out loud to you.
I love it. I love it because you're bringing up so many beautiful things. And what I'm hearing is this component of self trust.
Mm,
There had to be a development of deep self trust. Like, I'm going to take action on something with no evidence that it's going to work, no evidence that it's going to succeed, no evidence, nobody else is telling me that this is the right thing to do. Because I think in medicine and dentistry, that creates safety for us. If you take this exam and get this on the exam and get your degree, you will have XYZ. There's a lot of
yes.
protection and safety in there. But when we start trying to make an impact outside of the pre-prescribed algorithm, things get scary, things get uncertain. We need to start taking action on things that we don't have confirmation that it's going to work.
Absolutely. And you know what else I would add? So trust, faith, and I mean faith in yourself, right? Or
Totally.
whatever, higher being you believe in, great. But also creativity tapping into your creativity. I remember wanting to feel creative and I didn't. And I hear dentists say this all the time. They're like, I'm not creative. And we all are creative. We all have it. It's just a matter of finding that muscle. And whether it's maybe, you play a musical instrument or you write, like I like to write. You are a speaker as right. We have all of these different ways we can it could be through cooking we could express our creativity, right? But that's how we connect with ourselves and then that's how we can create that aligned impact, right? Is like it's the alignment with the impact is what makes it matter.
That's it, isn't it? That I think you just hit the nail on the
Yeah.
head. It's the alignment with yourself, right? And then having the faith and trust that that is worthy of
Mhm.
something to pursue. And I love the alignment component. And I'm going to right now, this is a perfect moment to do this. I'm going to walk the clock back years and years, decades and decades. And for those of you who are watching on the YouTube version of the Business of Happiness podcast, what you're looking at is an adorable picture of Laura. And and your sister? Am I right?
Yep.
Is that who's in the picture? Okay. How old are you in this picture?
Oh gosh, you know what? I think, you know how I'm trying to remember? I'm trying to think back to my haircuts.
I yeah, those are some bangs that
I'm gonna
on
say
your
that
sister there.
I mean, my mom butchered us in 2nd grade. She gave us these horrible haircuts that we still make fun of her about to
Oh,
this
so
day. So
cute.
I'm gonna say that I was probably in 1st grade here, which would
First grade.
be about 6 or 7, right?
Perfect, perfect. So, looking at that little girl, 6 or 7-year-old Laura, what did she love to do?
Oh, I love this because this is a question I ask my clients. I mean, not
Oh,
in this way, right? Of course, we ask a similar question, right?
yeah, of course.
Great minds. You know what's so amazing about that, Taryn, is even then, I think I already started. I was such a shy, you would never know this. I was so shy. I was, as an infant, cried on, I was the kid who cried on Santa's lap. You see my sister there. She's the one we went to Disney World. She would get out in the middle of the circle and dance with Mickey Mouse, and I would be terrified. I think even in this time, I was already hiding. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I have a story that my mom always told me where I think I was even a few years younger than this. We went to the circus and we were, the circus used to be in these huge arenas, right? And we had these cheap seats, like way, way, way up high. And all the clowns came out and they were all running around with their clown car and everything. And I burst into tears. And my mom was like, "What is going on? Like, what is wrong?" And I just said that they're laughing at me. And she couldn't understand. She's like, "Who's laughing at you?" Right? Because we were in the way, way, very high of the stadium. I thought the clowns were laughing at me at probably 4 years old. So I mean, I could even look back at this time even then and think I was trying not to be laughed at or embarrassed or and I liked my sister was very outgoing. She was a gymnast. I think I was in her shadow a little bit, not in a
Mm,
bad way, but just the normal natural way. I
mm,
remember riding bikes. I remember, playing jacks and things like that. But I really don't think I ever committed to loving and enjoying things because I
mm,
was afraid. And I see this with adults. I see this with adult dentists who are like, when I ask them, if you could design your life however you want, what would you do? And they don't even know. They can't they can't even admit to themselves if they have any dreams of what they would want to accomplish because they're embarrassed. And it's something I've never been able to explain, but I think this started then.
Isn't that so fascinating? And so it would make so much sense as you went on in your life that that would perpetuate in so many ways in your career. What do you think if she didn't have the fear of people laughing at her and judging her, what do you think she would have dreamed of?
Well, I do think what was always there is an interest in connecting with other people and being a part of something, being a part of a community and having friends and being able to express. This is what I know now. All right. This is coming from my adult wisdom,
Yes.
but being able to express or her, being able to express her love of connection in everything that she does.
So beautiful. And it makes sense that you see it from an adult perspective because we can't always recognize and connect the dots when we're in the middle of it. We connect the dots when we look back. That's where like the hindsight is 2020. Like that makes so much sense. And that's why I love this exercise of looking back at younger Laura and seeing what she actually felt deep inside of her. And if we took away all those expectations and judgments, what was in there? And what I love about what you just shared is, isn't it so interesting that now you're doing exactly that? You're creating those communities. You're establishing that beautiful space for people to feel welcomed and included and supported no matter what they're doing. It's so it's so exciting to me when we see that kind of blossoming of that little girl that had all these limitations and narratives put on her that kept her small. And now in this new iteration of you, when you feel more alignment, it's really just going back to her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm curious when I assume you ask other women in this series the same question, right?
Yes. Yes, I
Has
did.
anyone answered the way I did?
No, nobody has. And it's really fun because everybody actually had a completely unique way of looking at it.
Mhm.
Really. And that's really the point. Is when we look back at that younger version, and it was really interesting that you felt like at an even younger age, you started having those limitations placed upon you. Nobody said that to me yet. And I don't think that you're the only one. I think there are going to be so many people listening to this episode who think, yeah, you know what? When I was looking at that younger girl, I can't even remember what it was she liked. And she
Mhm.
was still pigeonholing herself in other people's definitions of what happiness and success look like.
Yeah, we learn to protect ourselves that way, don't we?
Isn't that so fascinating? And it's so cool because it works really well. It got you really far. You
Oh, yeah.
succeeded in a lot of ways by following that rule,
Absolutely. But then at some point it limits us.
right? That's so cool. It's so interesting. And I wonder if you could go back in time and say something, anything to that little girl, what would it be?
Oh gosh, I think it would be just telling her how awesome she is, right? Because I actually, you know what? I was thinking about this today. Sometimes I was driving around a part of my city. I'm in Denver. I was driving around an area where I used to live this morning, and I was just getting nostalgic. And I was thinking about the years when I first moved here after dental school and how fun my life was. And just thinking, like, I think back to just about every part of my life, whether it was good or bad, with so much love and nostalgia for it and appreciation, and think that was a cool time. All of it, all the parts. Maybe there are a couple that were really miserable, like going
Let
through
let's be honest.
chemotherapy. I wouldn't want to go back there,
Oh my gosh. I know.
but valuing that experience for what it was. But even still looking back, and when you're in the moment, you so often don't see how wonderful it is. And it's not until years later when you get that nostalgia that you're like, that there were some really cool things that went on. And it's just, it was not good or bad. It was just me. It was just my life. And so I think that's what I would let her know, is that every moment in your life is beautiful and you're doing great, and build that confidence up. Don't you wish that, like, you could just have all the confidence when you were younger walking through this journey?
I know. Isn't that's the sweet spot that we all wish we could have given to ourselves at a younger age. And I think that that's now where so many women are inspired to make impact is to let younger versions of themselves in other people know that you are absolutely worthy of your dreams and you are worthy of saying yes to yourself. And you don't have to ask anybody else's permission.
I couldn't have said that better.
Oh, well, thank you for all the incredible things you're doing. I know one of the most amazing things, guys, that Laura's doing. So she's a phenomenal coach at supporting incredible dentists who are finding a side gig, finding an alternate passion, either staying in the profession or leaving the profession. But she's also a retreat leader, which is so exciting because she's going to a phenomenal place this year that I'm dying for her to tell you about. And I'm so envious that I can't make it because literally, Laura, like every other week, I check my calendar again. I'm like, come on, damn it. I wish I could go. But I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about this exciting retreat you're running in 2024.
Well, you know also that I wish you could go too,
Oh,
and this is
so
like we've discussed this lots behind the scenes, so, yeah. So, I'll tell you what, I am a little tired of going to events where I sit and listen to a lecture
Mhm,
and I don't get direct interaction and guidance for myself and how I'm going to apply this into my life. And a lot of these give great content and stuff that we can absolutely use. But I really am excited now about how can we create content and learning that people are actually making it about them. Like you're at my event and we're actually talking about how it specifically applies to you, not the
mhm,
generalities.
mhm,
And so this is what I love about an immersive workshop setting, a retreat, is that it is very small, it's interactive, we're taking a deep dive. And what I've done over the years, the last couple of years, is really systematize how people either start a side gig or create a career change. No matter what it is, whether you like, first of all, a side gig can be just that. That makes you happy and gives you something else in addition to your main gig. Or it could be a vehicle out of your career, a safe vehicle. And so, no matter what that process is, I've really systematized it. And I'm bringing that system to this event. And what's cool is we're going to mix it with a safari in Kenya with my friend Morris Mugo, who he's got the coolest side gig in the world. It's called Safari and Smiles. He takes people to Africa on mission trips and they do CE credits and stuff for they bring speakers along, and it's just this amazing experience. So when you get yourself out of your everyday environment,
mhm,
your daily stresses,
mhm.
right? Then you can really connect with yourself. People always, whenever I ask people, what are your favorite experiences in life? It's always when they're traveling.
Yeah.
Not always, but most of the time.
And there's something so poetic about pulling yourself out of your regular comfort zone too, because it gives you an opportunity to see new perspective. Just you're living in a new perspective, which almost demands of you to have a new perspective on your business and on your career.
Yes, you're embodying it, right? You're just taking it on.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty magical combination to be able to, and one of my little sort of play on words is it's like we're removing you from your natural habitat, right? And putting you in this safari habitat where the whole world looks different. Oh my gosh, the whole world looks different. How could I make my own world look different? And so it's combined travel, adventure, learning, and then being with other people
Mm.
who believe as well and who are pouring into themselves and can pour into you until you believe in yourself. So it's really it's like it's just going to be transformational. I'm so excited for
It's
it.
gonna be so good, and talk about making an impact because there's different ways to make an impact on a swath of people or make deep transformational impact in a few people, and I love what you were reflecting about going to these conferences, and you're right, we have these moments in the conferences where we think, "Oh, that's brilliant," kind of moments of new perspective, and then so often we get back to work, and because we haven't had the guidance, we never implement these beautiful mind-blowing new perspectives. So that's really so cool to be able to give people the resource to implement and have a plan when they get back to put it in place. So when is it taking place? How do people find out about it? Tell us all the things.
It's May 15th through the 22nd. This May. So it's a couple months away. Now is the prime time to start looking at flights, believe it or not. It's a great time to look at flights. And you can I would say We do have a website that's Safari and Smiles. There's it's under that. It's a long URL, so you probably don't want me to say it. Or I have a page on my website, lolabeescareercoaching.com. There's a Safari and Side Gigs page as
And
well.
we'll have the link in the show notes.
And we'll have
So
links, or you can just reach out to me. If you forget, just do a Google search for 10 reasons your dentist probably hates you too. You'll find me. I'll
perfect.
be number
Perfect.
one.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for everything you do. And thanks for joining me here today to have this conversation. This was exactly the behind the veil of impact that I was looking for. So I really appreciate you and everything you're doing in this world.
Well, the overachiever in me loves to hear that I delivered the right way you wanted me to. So
You got an A, Laura. You got an A.
excellent. So thank you, Taryn. I could talk to you for, days on end, years on end. We could just keep going and going. So thank you for having me. I'm very honored.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for joining us here today and getting a new perspective on what it really looks like to make an impact and what it looks like to you, what the impact on yourself could be when you make this choice to make an impact. And remember, as always, when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.